Bahkan dari Dr. Tirta yang mencalonkan diri menjadi presiden,
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you may be. My name is Radisma Shafira and I will be your MC for today. On behalf of the Ministry of National Development Planning or Bappenas, I would like to welcome and thank all participants for attending and joining us in the Seri webinar to commemorate the International Day of Older Persons 2020. The webinar is specially hosted by the Directorate of Poverty Alleviation and Community Empowerment Bappenas with support from AREA and UNFPA. We invited international panelists from all over the world, including Indonesia, Japan, Australia, and Singapore. I would like to remind you that we have conducted 3 webinars before, and today's event will be the last of our webinar series. Today, we are going to discuss the topic of preparing Indonesia to expand silver economy. So, ladies and gentlemen, before commencing with the program of the day, I would like to give you some information. You may see on the screen that the translation service is available in this webinar. You can choose your audio channel by clicking the interpretation feature, which is the globe button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. We'd also like to apologize that some participants may not be able to join us here in the meeting room. So for those who can join our Zoom meeting, you can watch this webinar on our official YouTube channel at Bappenas RI. And today's presentation materials can be downloaded by clicking the link we provide. And you can also participate and ask your question through Slido using the hashtag #OlderPeopleWebinar. And finally, we also need your feedback about this webinar. So please kindly fill the evaluation form through the link we provide. And in the evaluation form, we'll also be able to request your certificate of participation, which will be available next week. So, ladies and gentlemen, Indonesia will be the second largest silver economy in the world after China. In 2030, Indonesia's aging market will be dominated by upper middle income seniors. Older people will need specific goods and services, including housing, residential facilities, social services, senior health products, as well as the senior-friendly technology. Therefore, it is urgent to develop strategies to expand the silver economy, contributing to economic growth and all the people's welfare. This webinar will discuss the best practices of silver economy development in various countries, Indonesia's strategy to support silver economic expansion, as well as Indonesia's private sector's role in providing goods and services for all the people. So, ladies and gentlemen, to begin our webinar today, we would like to invite Dr. Amalia Adininggar Widyasanti, Acting Deputy Academic Affairs and Senior Advisor to the Minister for Economy and Financing to deliver the opening remarks. But before referring to Dr. Amalia, I would like to briefly read her short bio. Dr. Amalia Adininggar Widyasanti started her career in the ministry since 1999 at Directorate of Industry, Trade and Tourism. She was assigned as a Deputy Director for Trade in 2006 and appointed as Director for Trade, Investment, and International Economic Cooperation from November 2011 until July 2016. She was then assigned as a Director of Microeconomic Planning and Statistics Analysis in July 2016 until February 2018, before being promoted to her current position. She was also appointed as the head of SDGs National Coordination Team Secretariat in 2018 and has held that role until now. She obtained her PhD degree in economics from the University of Melbourne, Australia in 2005 with her thesis of Inflation Targeting Framework in Emerging Economies. has strong interest in macroeconomic issues, trade and economic development, as well as economic modeling and analysis, has encouraged her to put her strong intention on economic policy research for Indonesia. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Amalia Adininggar Widyasanti.
Thank you, Mr. Radesma, Miss Radesma. Bapak Mungki Sumadi, my good friend, the Deputy Minister for Population and Employment of Bappenas. Bapak Nararya Ciputra Sastra Winata, Director of Ciputra Group. Mr. David Lane, Chairman of Thomson Asset Australia. Professor Yoshihiko Kadoya from Hiroshima University of Japan. Ms. Sylwin Engru, General Manager, Aging Asia Alliance, Singapore, and all distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A very good afternoon to all of us. Ladies and gentlemen, the world economy has now been in a challenging situation. It is not only because of COVID-19 pandemic, but also because of facing a struggle to uplift the long-run growth as the world population aging is decelerating income and output growth of global economy. We understood that the rapid demographic aging is a major development challenge to all of us. But on the other side, the aging society can also be a major opportunity for our economic growth and creating jobs. If we can, but the prerequisite is that if we can clearly identify the new sources of economic engines that can drive expansion in the economic output. In this regard, it is very much imperative to start looking at dedicated solutions for the aging market and to create development opportunities for all economic actors. And this will not come automatically. It needs efforts and well-prepared actions to change challenges into golden opportunities. And the economic opportunities in the era of aging population is famously defined as a silver economy. Oxford Economics defines the silver economy as the sum of all economic activities that serve the needs of those aged 50 and over people, including both the products and services that they purchase directly and then create further economic activities from their spending. Therefore, the silver economy is actually a multifaceted sector resulting from a strong demographic trend. Ladies and gentlemen, as we know, the world total number of aged people who is 65 years or older will reach an estimated 1.5 billion in 2050. And their ratio to the total world population will double from 7.3% in 2005 to 15.5% in 2050. This growth will lead to a change in people's behavior for sure, such as increase in spending related to health, tourism, leisure, and also an evolution in needs and services related to well-being activities, health improving activities, and needs of older people staying more at home. According to the European Commission study, the value of the silver economy in the Europe is approximately 3.7 trillion euro, and that is expected to grow to a number of 5.7 trillion by 2025. As we know, Indonesia is the fourth most populous country in the world, amounting to 164 million in 2017 and is projected to be around 300 million people in 2030. The population data of Indonesia shows that after 2030, the dependency ratio will start to increase as the number of old people in Indonesia will also increase. And by 2045, Indonesia will become an aging society with an estimated elder population reaching around 12.5% of the total population. And in this period, the labor force starts shrinking, adding to the burden to be borne by the working people. And the economy gets laden with a heavy burden. But at the same time, we have to look at the opportunity of silver economy that will arise in the future. Contrary to the conventional wisdom, which often views the aging trend as a problem, that now we have to look at the other side. The graying of population represents a massive untapped growth opportunity that we have to take this one. Therefore, it is urgent for Indonesia to develop strategies to expand and take the opportunity of the silver economy so it can contribute to the economic growth and create a better older people's welfare and the whole economic welfare in the future. I would say that there are a lot of steps and several steps to prepare and to attain the untapped silver economy are, among others, first, policy reforms to address inequalities in healthy lifestyle and to untap the opportunity of silver economy. Second, technology solutions to empower and improve productivity of the aging society by creating new markets, delivering new products and services, supporting new work practices, and creating connected communities that respond to the aging society needs. Third, innovative new models of finance to drive the silver market. Fourth, new and flexible models for careers and pensions to encourage people to work longer and plan a better future for their old. And the fifth is social entrepreneurship to value the silver economy and to help the silver economy expanding. Ladies and gentlemen, the silver economy is actually multi-sectoral and does not focus on a single market or a single approach. Therefore, it is important to set up collaborative efforts to organize and restructure the opportunities in our economy, as we agree that the silver economy will be one of the important sources for Indonesian future engine of economic growth. Lastly, there is a quote saying, "Economy is not a baseball where the game is always played by the same rules." In this context, I would really to underline and to highlight that we have to find the new game for our future economy. And this is the silver economy, and we have to start from now. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good afternoon for all of us.
Thank you, Dr. Amalia, for the opening remarks. So, ladies and gentlemen, before we continue to our next agenda, I would like to invite your participation by asking your question through Slido using the hashtag #OlderPeopleWebinar. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now continuing to the main session. Dr. Dinar Dene Karisma, the Deputy Director for Social Assistance, Directorate of Poverty Alleviation and Community Empowerment, Ministry of National Development Planning, or Bappenas, will moderate the session. Dr. Dinar Dene Karisma is currently actively working on the digital transformation of social assistance programs, Digital Village Monograph Development for Poverty Data Updating, and National Older People Policy Improvement. He holds a PhD in Social Policy from Brandeis University, USA, also a master's degree in Law and Diplomacy from Tufts University, USA. Bapak Dinar Dene Karisma, the panel discussion is yours.
Thank you very much, Ms. Radesma. Good afternoon, Bapak dan Ibu sekalian. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. It is my honor to be able to sit here together with all of the panelists and all of the audience for our discussion today on expanding silver economy in Indonesia. We have several speakers today from around the world. We have Mr. David Lane from Australia. We have Professor Kadoya from Japan. We have Ibu Sylvin Andrew from Singapore, and we have Bapak Nararia Ciputra from Indonesia. And we also have two discussants from Bappenas, Dr. Leonardo and Dr. Maliki. So without further ado, we're going to start our session today. I would like to invite our first speaker, David Lane. David Lane is currently a chairman at Thomson Asset Australia. As one of Australia's best-known architectural specialists in the elderly care industry, David has worked on major domestic projects across private, public, and charitable sectors. He has directed work on significant international projects located in Asia, United Kingdom, Canada, and the USA. He has been instrumental in developing Thomson Asset's reputation as a specialist consultancy practice through the expansion of retirement and aged care divisions in key growth markets around Australia. David Lane, the floor is yours, and your presentation time is about 15 minutes.
Thank you very much. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
That's good. Is the screen, I've just linked the share screen, is that coming up now?
It is.
Okay.
Yes, you can see it now.
Thank you. Welcome, and thank you very much for your warm welcome. It's a privilege to be sharing again today. What I'd like to spend a bit of time on today is just sharing my experience in what Australia has learned over the period of time. And I'm doing this on behalf of the Australian Silver Industry Group, and in that respect, the Australian government and the Queensland government. I'll just move to the next slide. This industry group has been gathered together by various governments with 5 core private sector groups, some who are not for profit, to actually deliver the best possible advice and services to our colleagues throughout Asia. We've been active now for some 3 to 4 years and have been quite successful in assisting in this area. We offer predominantly professional services, and each of the members has enormous expertise and a long history of activity in the aged care field. For example, I've been practicing only in aged care since 1986 and have done over 4,000 projects. These are the group members. I won't go into them in detail. There is information that can be made available to you. But briefly, Bolton Clark is a provider group that can help organisations wishing to set up in the industry. Sistri is an urban design and property group, property advisory group. And you can see there, Gleeds is a construction, property and consulting group. Tunstall provides technology-enabled services, and we provide architecture and interior services. Our real interest, though, comes from the perspective of integrating both the hardware and the software of the product. And in order to do that, we really need to understand what the industry is doing. So this slide here shows the Thomson Asset practice. And again, only to introduce it very briefly, I won't go into a lot of detail, but safe to say that we were ranked number 1 in the world by WAN in 2017 for specialist work in seniors living. And we have an alliance with Nikanseki, which is Japan's largest architectural practice and number 2 in the world. So we're very active throughout Asia. We have a very extensive group of offices, and you can see on the right-hand side the location of projects gives a very strong spread throughout the Asia-Pacific area in particular. We've also been active participants in many of the forums around ageing throughout Asia, and it's on the basis of the information we've learned from those forums, from our own active work, that I'd like to share a little bit about what Australia has learned and then reflect on what I think Indonesia needs to learn. The Australian residential aged care system, broadly speaking, now contributes or costs the Australian taxpayer around $20 billion. We have over 200,000 residential care places, that is, places for people in quite high levels of frailty and very later stage of life, typically 85 years and over. A total of 7% of the population is cared for in some way by residential government support, residential and services support by the government. And there's around about 100,000 community aged care packages growing to 150,000. What that means is effectively the government provides support by monetary assistance and services assistance to individuals to stay in their own home in the community. And in doing so, they are providing over 800,000 people this type of support and services. To achieve that level, and I believe recently, as recent as 2 weeks ago, Australia was ranked number 3 in the world by independent groups assessing the efficacy of the services that the government has been able to achieve. We've had nearly 100 years to achieve this, and so in reality, trying to compare Australia's privileged position to that of many of the emerging economies in Asia, where, and in Indonesia's particular circumstance, growing into a more mature economy based around industry and commerce, is happening at the same time as your population is aging, and this is a huge challenge. So our period of growth started with people cared for after the war, many of them in informal settings, and progressively we developed institutions and hospital designs to suit older people. And then in the 1990s, we shifted to a more residential setting up to now, where we're now moving away from that residential setting to a more lifestyle-oriented setting and with a focus on participation in the community. The spectrum of services include community care, which is the predominant focus of the government, transitional step-down care, residential aged care for people who really do need a 24-hour assistance, and then those specialist services of dementia care and palliative care. All of these are supported by over 80% of the costs through the government. The important thing, however, is that the government has in recent years separated out the cost of the accommodation from the cost of the care. And so in Australia, as this slide is loading, it is very normal for people to pay for the cost of where they live, but the government supports them through the services they need, which are individually tailored to their medical and health circumstances. And this slide briefly describes the categorisation very loosely across the spectrum from relatively high care down to relatively independent living. And it's quite important that we understand this segmentation in the market, because we actually have a situation where this is a very dynamic and fluid market, and we need to recognise that. You can see there the types of services that are offered in Australia for those types of care requirements. In terms of the buildings, the spectrum of the continuum that I've just shown actually covers everything from virtual nursing homes to virtual retirement villages and pretty much everything in between. There are various physical products that reflect right across that spectrum. And what I mean by virtual nursing homes and virtual retirement villages are those that create a community online digitally, and services are provided to people by nurses and carers coming to their home. This is really categorised, and you can see in this slide, the top three elements include institutionalised care through, although residential settings, they tend still to be frail-aged homes, grouping older people together and providing services to them in the most efficient way possible. That covers the residential aged care, dementia, and transitional step-down and palliation. All of those, particularly the transitional and step-down services, relate around rehabilitation. At the lower end of the spectrum, the retirement village and retirement communities are increasingly popular, and these are typically seen in different forms around the world, as is affordable seniors housing models. And I think this is very relevant to Indonesia, where many people may not have the affordability for these types of services. And then the variant option that has been recently developed in Australia is the land lease model, where someone owns the land and the individual only pays for the house that is placed upon it. In the middle of all that is a significant breadth of rather exciting opportunities, some of which I'll hopefully show you by way of pictures, using integrated communities and mixed use facilities that are part of the fabric of a denser living community. In terms of the funding instrument, it's too complicated to go into in the brief time that I have, other than the point I made before, that there are the funding of the care services, which is a government responsibility largely, and the funding of the accommodation, which is largely the responsibility of the individual or their families. And within that context, there are multiple options for people to choose, including rental, lump sum fees, which are fully reimbursable upon death, etc. The key elements of the government policy really around staffing efficiency, resident care needs, so it's very resident care focused, community integration, so the importance of older people remaining connected to their community, strengthening the understanding that we have in Australia around the social model of care, where people are actively encouraged to participate within the community, and understanding how this is perceived by individuals through control of their personal space and the residential scale of the buildings they live in. One important, interesting aspect of this discussion today is that recently both our governments have signed a free trade agreement, and I believe this has some really vibrant and exciting opportunities for the silver industry. Some of those include the certainty that is now created in the business environment, the ability for organisations from both countries to set up business initiatives in each country freely and to be promoted to do so. There are government incentives to assist, and although Indonesia's population is relatively young comparative to some countries in the Western world, this growing middle class will become older over the next 20 or 30 years, as was very eloquently highlighted earlier by our first speaker. And I think there are opportunities to link tourism into this ageing and silver industry sector. So the ability to combine some of the great strengths and the wonderful features that Indonesia as a country has can be seen to be an opportunity that should not be ignored. I believe that Indonesia is really one of the sleeping giants of ASEAN and is an important contributor in the Southeast Asian sector in particular. Some points I'd like to make in observing where I believe you need to focus. I believe Indonesia needs to develop strongly and clearly its own culture, its own expectations of the industry it wants to create, and that needs to focus on the strong culture you already have, the expectation and respect of older people in Indonesia, and I believe a strong focus on home care. In saying that, I think the government and government organisations charged with that responsibility need to be realistic, but they also need to be authentic and unique. My recommendation is not to slavishly follow other countries' solutions, but observe, learn and adapt. Avoid at all costs institutionalising older frail members, and in doing so, avoid bed blockers in the government hospital system. There are far more effective and lower cost options for affordable housing, for seniors housing, for retirement communities that are much cheaper to build, much cheaper to run than housing people in acute settings in a hospital. In terms of the authenticity, rely on your proud history and the respect that people have of older people in your community. I think it is important that the community takes shared responsibility for the policies that come into place, and in particular, that they educate the population on ageism and respect. So these are the really key things. And finally, the ability for government policy to incentivise the private sector to become involved and to become a genuine participant in these opportunities. In that respect, I've briefly identified a couple of things that I think are important for the development of Indonesia's social infrastructure, including the development of what I call integrated communities, the expansion of options in continuum of care through home care and home nursing, the recognition of tourism through boutique lifestyle resorts for those who may have more disposable income, and the focus on delivering care through supported community hubs and a focus in that respect on health and wellness. The architecture of which I'm involved is really a stage set to offer people opportunities to see their activities in a different way and to lead a fulfilling life. I believe in respect to the city planning, urgent foreign investment is required. I believe this requires a strong relationship between the banks, developers, and improvements in investment confidence. And this requires more than just concepts. It is important in the work I've done, having an office in Indonesia since 1992, there's a predisposition to come up with concepts, but they need to be more than thought bubbles. There's a need to provide a strong rigor in the pre-feasibility and feasibility stage. And I think there are opportunities for the government to look at collaboration with ASEAN, the Asian Development Bank, the World Health Organization, the United Nations and other peak bodies around the development of age-friendly cities to avoid creating problems before they start. In that respect, we've been heavily involved using the Global Age-Friendly Cities Guide that World Health Organization developed, and are currently actively involved in a project for the Wuhan government to develop an age-friendly city planning guideline for the entire province of approximately 12 million people. This is a good example of international collaboration that is achievable. Just briefly as I finish off, and I won't go into this deeply, you can see there on the board, this is some of the global learnings that we are able to offer through the Australian Silver Industry Group. And just to give you an idea of what we've achieved, very briefly, there's, I'll skip that one. These are some photos of the project activity that we've been working on. This is for the Thornbury Group in Bangkok. It's a retirement community, hospital and integrated aged care complex. You can see it's a very long sausage-like site, but has nearly 3,000 apartments and 120 aged care beds and a 400-bed hospital. And this is what it will look like when it's completed. So it provides an internal buffer of peace and tranquility from a very busy inner city area within Bangkok. Just other examples, this is the Cheerful Court project in Hong Kong that we completed in 2004. It was the world's first vertical retirement community at the time, offering fully integrated services, and won numerous awards for its achievement in this area. It was a very strong collaboration with the Hong Kong government and the Hong Kong Health Authority. In terms of the future directions of seniors living, I've got some things there that are up on the screen, and I'd encourage those of you who download the presentation to maybe have a look at these later and reflect on them. This is just another example of typical buildings. This one is in Beijing, providing affordable housing and aged care services for a community fully integrated with the local community. This is another one in Damansara Heights in Kuala Lumpur. This one is also in Ampang in Kuala Lumpur. This one is under construction at the beginning of next year. So I'll just leave you there, and thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, great. Very on time. Thank you so much, David. It's very interesting. But hold your questions. We will be listening for another presentation discussing on the experience of Japan in also developing their silver economy. So we have our next speaker, Professor Yoshihiko Kadoya. He is a distinguished researcher of Hiroshima University. He is also the director of Hiroshima Institute of Health Economics Research, or HIHER, and a professor of economics at Hiroshima University. His research fields include health economics, health services research, financial literacy, and public policy. I would like to give the opportunity to you, Professor Kadoya. Your time is about 15 minutes.
All right. Yeah, thank you very much. Selamat siang, Dr. Wadisanti and Dr. Sumadi and Dr. Charisma. Thank you very much for your kind introduction. Let me share the slides. Am I sharing the slides correctly?
Yes, we can see that. Very
okay,
clearly.
That's good. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, once again, yeah, thank you very much. Okay, nama saya Yoshihiko Kadoya. Brief introduction of myself, and it's like kind of nice to see, and I'm really honored to be here, invited by the government of Indonesia, and also nice to see the Australia connections here. Then I did my PhD at the University of Sydney, and I now serve as the director of the Hiroshima Institute of Health Economics Research and a professor of economics, and a member of the Science Council of Japan, which is Japan's National Academy. I published this book in the UK in 2018 under the title of Human Services and the Long-Term Care, a Market Model. I shared lots of experiences and the lesson we can learn from the case of Japan in this book. But today, the time is really limited, so I summarized that I only convey the single message for the sake of the future of Indonesia. That is that the productivity is really important for happy silver economy. That's my message. Let me begin with the chart of Indonesia. Aging in Indonesia. The aged population is to increase over the next several decades in Indonesia. An aged society means that you would need to support elderly with fewer number of productive aged people. As a proportion of the aged population in the entire population is to be bigger, the proportion of the productive age is to be smaller. So frail elderly must be supported by society. That is obvious because they need the support for the activities of daily living. Plus, this premise is very important for younger generations as well. If they feel anxiety about later life, they wouldn't spend much money but save the money for their later life. That surely serves as an obstacle to economic growth. So what are we going to do to secure frail elderly? There are basically two conceptual solutions. The first is that we import young people from somewhere, like overseas, and increase the number of workers. The second is to increase the productivity of the existing young people without importing young people from overseas. So let me share the lesson we can learn from the case of Japan with you. At first, Japan tried to solve this labor shortage issue by increasing the productivity. So the Japanese government trained the care workers for them to enhance their productivity by introducing the license system to be a care worker. So to be a care worker in Japan, then you would need to go through the 1,800 hours of training that gives you the necessary skill set. Then the government also planned to invest on the related technology to enhance the productivity of the elderly care. This chart indicates how to be certified care workers that requires 1,800 hours of training in Japan. Then even after becoming a certified care worker, you would still need to go through the extra training to get promoted. As for the technological investment, government of Japan expected to enlarge the service-related robot markets. There were indeed many technological seeds that can enhance the productivity in the predicted year, of which in this case 2010. Let me show you some examples. The first example is about the therapeutic robot Paro. Paro is designed to calm down the people with dementia. The elderly with dementia occasionally become very emotional or aggressive, but this therapeutic robot Paro can calm them down, communicating with them. The second example is this system developed by the NEC Corporation. The system can monitor the emotional status of the elderly without asking how they are. So frail elderly often cannot express their emotion very well. But this can help us to identify those who need support. And this can surely enhance the productivity of high quality care. The last example is about the power assist suit HAL. HAL can assist movement and help the wearer lift heavy objects. The robot suit is controlled via bioelectric sensors attached to the skin, which monitor the signal transmitted from the brain. With skilled workers and technological development, the productivity of the elderly care is to be increased. According to the principle of economics, a biggest determining factor of wage is one's productivity. So the wage of care workers to go up as their productivity increase. Then even more skilled workers come into the industry for the high wage. And the care quality provided is to be improved. As a result, frail elderly is to be secured, and people will no longer worry about latter life. That is what we should call happy silver economy. However, this virtuous circle didn't work quite well in Japan at the end. In fact, Japan didn't invest much on the research and the development that increased the productivity. Look at this table. Japan uniquely didn't increase the investment on research and development, whereas other countries increased their research and development investment much greater than that of Japan. So Japan used to have a really good technology, but we didn't invest, so that the advantage is to be diminished. As a result, I think Japan has failed to increase the productivity due to the lack of the technological investment. And to make matters worse, in 2019, Japan transferred from the productivity enhancement policy to immigrant policy by deregulating work permit. That serves as a serious obstacle of increasing the productivity of the skilled care workers, because the manager of care providers tend to prefer hiring unskilled immigrants with low wages to hiring expensive domestic skilled workers. With those in mind, I think Japan failed to increase the productivity and failed to increase the wage of workers. Then, of course, the quality of care was not improved. As a result, frail elderly is still insecure and people still worry about their later life. Moreover, skilled workers are actually leaving the care industry in Japan. As seen in this figure, the number of registered certified care workers in trending upward, but of those, only around 60% are actually working in the industry as certified care workers. In other words, despite having the skill to work in the field, more than 40% of these skilled people are not working in the industry. According to the research of Hanaoka 2011 and many others, wages are the major factor behind care workers leaving the industry. Let me back to the initial slide. Age society means that you would need to support elderly with fewer number of productive aged people. There are two conceptual solutions. The first is that we import young people from somewhere, perhaps overseas, and increase the number of care workers. And the second is to increase the productivity of the existing people without importing personnel from overseas. The right answer is the latter one, especially in this period of the global pandemic. Increase the workers' productivity. So, lesson for Indonesia: to increase the productivity, train the workers for them to obtain the necessary skills, and make sure to increase the investment on the related technology. With the increased productivity, workers' wages go up, and even more skilled workers come into the industry for the high wage. Then we will achieve the happy silver economy. I mean that frail elderly is to be secured and people will no longer worry about the latter life. That is what I think the lesson the Indonesia can learn from the case of Japan. Terima kasih. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Kadoya. Very interesting presentation. We will have discussions from Bappenas, and they've been involved in policy making, also in the related to the employment as well. So we will see what they're thinking about your suggestions and the lesson learned from Japan. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih. We will be moving to the third speaker. So after we are listening to the experiences of Australia and Japan, now we have two speakers that will be talking about Indonesia. So the third speaker is Ms. Sylwin Andrew. She is now the General Manager at Aging Asia. Currently, Ms. Andrew oversees the administration and operational aspects of the company. She has over 15 years experience building partnership and rapport with various top decision makers from IT, financial, government, transport, healthcare, to manufacturing sector. She has been quite instrumental in developing the company's core competencies. Since joining Aging Asia in 2012, Sylvian has been actively engaging in discussion with key industry stakeholders and constantly keep updated on the latest trends in Asia-Pacific aging market. Sylvian is also the head of business development at Aging Asia. She continually seeks to enhance the quality of Aging Asia's B2B platform and curate opportunities for the alliance members and partners to access the region's aging market. Ms. Andrew is an Indonesian who has lived in Singapore for close to 20 years. She holds an honors in Bachelor of Management from the University of London and has a passion for wine and yoga. So Ibu Sylvian will be presenting a presentation with the topic of silver economy business opportunity for Indonesia. I would like to invite you, Ibu Sylvian, to give your presentation. Your time is about 15 minutes.
Thank you, Pak Dinar. Thank you for the introductions. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Selamat siang, Bapak-Bapak, Ibu-Ibu terhormat. Terima kasih atas undangannya hari ini dari Bappenas. As Pak Dinar has shared earlier on, I'm actually born and bred in Jakarta, but I've been living in Singapore for over 20 years now, which is why it's actually such an honor for me to be invited to be part of this webinar by Bappenas and to be involved in these discussions to prepare for Indonesia's silver economy, which is something that is very personal and very close to my own heart because I do wish to, come back to Indonesia and retire in Indonesia with my family who are all still based in Jakarta. Thank you again, Dr. Amelia, Dr. Pungki, Dr. Maliki, and Pak Dinar, and all the organizing committee for this opportunity. So today I'll be sharing about Aging Asia Alliance and our research in the growth potentials of the silver economy around Asia Pacific, and also the top trend markets from Asia Pacific as well, which is something that we believe something that can be adapted in the Indonesia silver economy. Just before I start, a quick introduction on my organization. As many of you probably have not heard, Aging Asia Alliance is Asia Pacific's first industry network on the business of aging. We are an independent platform that seeks to unite businesses, government, not-for-profit, and mainstream media in Asia Pacific. Our vision is to nurture partnership and curate development of solutions that address the new opportunities and market demand of our aging baby boomer populations in Asia. This is done through our work in market intelligence, consultancy, training programs, and strategic partnership. By now, you probably have been hearing quite a lot of statistics, and I believe all of us here today are aware of the changing demographic structure globally, which is especially acute, yes, in Asia due to the speed of how this change happened. But what I want to share today instead is that aging is not a tsunami to be afraid of, but instead is a new market potential. According to Aging Asia's finding from our 4th Asia Pacific Silver Economy Business Opportunity Report, which is the 2020 editions, it's launched on the 7th of August 2020 this year, the Asia Pacific aging market value is estimated to hit US 4.56 trillion by the year of 2025. This marked an increase by 43% from US 3.2 trillion back in 2020. This is in line with our previous edition of the report. We uses the household savings figure to be the metrics estimate the capacity of individual to purchase goods and services outside of their daily consumption needs. Our research and analysis is based on primary and secondary data and country outlook contributions from industry leaders. This report covers 15 key countries, identifies as potential silver economy growth market within Asia Pacific. Also, in line with the previous report, the view taken is that one that is based on the United Nations and their World Population Aging 21/7 report. Aging population in this report is defined as a person that is aged 60 years and above. So based on this report, we forecasted that the silver economy market in Indonesia by 2025 will be worth 75.5 billion US dollars. While this is a very interesting figure, I believe, it's really just scratching the surface of the silver economy potential in Indonesia. Why? Because the report further forecasted that the aging market boom in Asia Pacific countries will actually happen in the next 10 years. The younger baby boomers will be 60 by the year 2024, and they would be part of the aging populations. The baby boomers generation remain as the key target market segment for the next 10 to 20 years. And as they age, their expectation and demand for goods and services to support their lifestyle and healthcare needs would be very different from the previous generation. And this group will be willing to spend more to age well. So as we observe in the age group income chart, Indonesian within the age group of 50 to 54 and 55 to 59 have the highest income level and purchasing power. Within the next 5 to 10 years' time, this group would be part of the aging populations. With the wealthiest age segment aging, the consumer market spending for those aged above 60 can be expected to rise exponentially, along with the demand and higher expectation of certain products, goods, and services to support their needs. This will drive the change in the way Indonesia delivers social, health, care, lifestyle, and technology. Additionally, by 2030, the number of over 60 consumers in Indonesia would double to 41 million. And this number would increase by 70% to 70 million by 2050, surpassing even Japan by the sheer aging market population. And this makes Indonesia the third largest silver market after China and India, respectively. So now let me share deeper into some of the upcoming business trends, which was also highlighted in the Silver Economy Report 2020 that is done by Aging Asia. And this trends analysis are based on a survey response with our top health and aged care thought leaders globally. The first trend that we see is that the upcoming business of dementia. Businesses that cater to improving care and enabling daily living for a person with dementia. As the society age, of course, besides chronic diseases, age-related health issues such as frailty, incontinence, and dementia, this will impact senior quality of life. And globally, one of the key main health issues impacting the aging populations would be dementia. Worldwide, 50 million people have dementia, and there are nearly 10 million new cases every year. The prevalence of dementia impacting ourselves and our loved one may soon be as common as having a chronic disease. A diagnosis of dementia will mean awareness of the situation and provide opportunities for early interventions and living at home for as long as possible with the support of additional home care services as our cognitive and physical condition decline will be highly needed. The number of people who has dementia in Indonesia has increased rapidly as well and is expected to reach 1.9 million in 2030 and nearly 4 million in 2050. The next trend that we see is the trend on the business of care technology. Of course, due to the recent COVID-19 pandemic and also government implementation of movement and social contact restriction, technology has emerged as a key tool for communication and daily living. This has resulted as well to seniors or older adults around Asia Pacific adapting to new technologies to stay connected to family and friends. We see that the biggest market for senior care technology is to improve efficiency and productivity for staff, as Professor Kadoya earlier on has also shared. Is to enable staff to allocate more time towards providing care and social engagement with the person that they care for. The business of care technology include 5 broad areas we see: demand of cloud communication, telehealth, remote business, and remote clinical function being one, demand for assistive technology to support care worker, demand for smart home intelligence technology to enable older adults to live at home with independence, demand for companion robots with artificial intelligence to support seniors with dementia and social engagement. And lastly, demand for technology. Technology innovations such as virtual reality to help facilitate remote staff training. Okay, the next trend that we see is the business of healthy aging. A mindset shift towards self-empowerment of physical and cognitive health would happen. According to the latest healthy life expectancy data by WHO, Singapore ranked first at 76.2 years old, followed by Japan at 74.8 and Korea at 73 years old. The desire for independence, dignity in old age and mobility is driving this mindset change in baby boomers towards aging in good health and extending their healthy life expectancy. Seniors today or older adults today are living longer and living healthier. So the business's opportunity emerge is about how we can create products and services that enable senior to be in better state of health, age stronger, and to live longer at home. The next trend is the business of fun rehabilitations. Gamification or rehabilitations exercise to increase participation rates with our older adults. We want our seniors or our older adults to exercise more to stay active. The biggest challenge, however, is to encourage sedentary seniors to exercise and stay motivated in the long term. In recent years, the concept of this gamification of rehab exercises by combining medical concept, sports, and competitions elements have gained tractions. We see emergence of exergaming being applied for seniors' wellness sector, where conventional amusement arcade machines are being repurposed for seniors' activity centers, transformation of popular sports into senior-friendly activities, and integration of new technology, including virtual reality, augmented reality, and artificial intelligence. We've even seen the maker of Angry Bird game, for example, from Finland, entering into this market space as well. Then the next trend we'll see is the business of rehabilitation tourism. While this may not be an immediate opportunity due to COVID-19, however, we see that there's still opportunity for this. In fact, maybe this will be one way for our travel and tourism sector that is hit badly by COVID to look at this new segment as their post-COVID business strategy and diversification through strategic partnership. In our recent webinar, which we do as Aging Asia Alliance in Singapore with Singapore baby boomers just last month, we asked what is their top spending besides on healthcare and food? And the answer is travel. While most of our baby boomers in Asia Pacific may not be likely to migrate permanently to other countries, however, we see that the upcoming trend stays rehabilitation tourism may be something that they will embark on. This combined with vacations, combining leisure, health rehabilitation, preventative health care, long-term medical treatments, post-surgery and wellness programs. The next slides here, we see the business of longevity economy. The implications of the 100 years life in transforming the way we live, work, and play. Okay. As in the words of Professor Andrew Scott, an economist and thought leader in aging and longevity, who recently spoke at our conference, this probably is one of the very important aspects of the aging demographic change recently, and have a huge impact on the macroeconomy. With more people living longer, with innovation, this actually could imply to a new economic opportunity and prosperity. The longevity economy is defined by AARP, or American Association for Retired Persons, as the economic contributions of people aged 50 and older, and how they are driving the economic growth engine, stimulating job and creating opportunity for all. The demand driven by the business of longevity economy point to several factors. First, opportunity driven by extending healthy life years to enable a person to stay in employment longer. Companies need to innovate to look at ways to let older workers to integrate them with new technology and reduce heavy lifting, keeping employees healthy through wellness program and encouraging work-life balance. Second, baby boomers have higher expectations of quality of life. they do not see age as a barrier as they look for new products to enable them to live with independence. Third, with expansion of healthy lifestyle, baby boomers will seek travels and lifestyle services that can provide them with the fulfillment that they are looking for. Lastly, in the area of retirement planning and financing, product innovations includes annuities, private pensions, insurance, and long-term care financing are expected to be highly in demand to fund 100 years life. Traditional notions of life stages where we study, work, and retire will change. The multi-stage life will become the new normal. The next trend is actually something that I'll be very interested to hear from.
2 more minutes.
Sorry?
We have 2 more minutes, Priscilla.
Thank you. So yes, as I was saying, the next trend is actually something that I'm very interested to hear from the next speaker, Mr. Ciputra. So it is one of the key trends that we have identified as well in our report, which is the business of senior living and care communities. I think one thing that just to highlight really quickly in this particular one is that you have to look at how in the case of Indonesia, the growing senior living aged care market that's highly in demand is the divide in terms of the wide gap of the wealth distributions among seniors or older adults in Indonesia. So there is an opportunity, however, having a 5-star service at all level of market segments. Like for example, in Japan, we see companies like Sompo and Bappenas creating senior housing and care across multiple brands and price tiers. The next trend is on the business of loneliness. With falling fertility rates, smaller family, and more single people aging, today baby boomers are facing real scenario of aging alone. And that doesn't mean social isolation alone. In the United States, the cost of loneliness is almost $7 billion extra in the healthcare costs overall. And the pandemic has amplified this whole situations, of course. And there's technology as well as innovations that have come out of it. We've seen that are able to address these issues. For example, in Japan, we see security companies like Secom providing once-a-week checked-in subscription-based services. And technologies like that or innovations like that will be able to address such a trend. Again, related to the previous trend as well, the business of virtual care is driven by rising willingness of seniors towards technology for healthcare and well-being management. Again, this is a positive outcome that we see out of COVID-19, where most older adults started to use technology for virtual care. Next trend is on business of local economy, the 1 kilometers aging in place radius where we live, work, and play. Aging in place vision for seniors give rise to big opportunities to businesses looking at accessing the silver market. With over 600 million seniors aged over 60 in Asia Pacific by 2025, 90% of them want to age at home without moving into a specific residential aged care or senior living facility. So NOC, naturally occurring retirement communities, which David mentioned earlier as well, development are popping up all over the region. And in Singapore, we see more and more aging communities, such as Kampung Admiralty, as well as in Australia. This, driven with COVID-19, we believe will accelerate even more of such developments around Asia, where delivery of services and transition of retail spaces that suits the lifestyle, convenience, and well-being of older adults, all delivered within 1 kilometers of where they live. So lastly, this is actually my last slide here. Just wanted to share with you that in this whole month of November, Aging Asia Alliance is running our annual conference as well. And this year is a virtual one, where the whole month of November will be delivering 23 days of training and sharing of global best practices and innovations on silver market. So if any one of you are interested to know more and journey with us into this silver market, feel free to join us. There's a QR code code on my screen here that you can actually scan, and then you'll be brought into to retrieve or redeem your direct access to the conference and the training programs. And before I close, I just want to share with you in summary what our World Aging Festival opening keynote speaker, Professor Andrew Scott, sum up during his presentations. He said in his presentation that the aging sector, or we call it, or silver sector, is probably the single largest new emerging market in the world, as everyone ages and every country is facing this demographic shift. This market is one that is very diverse and very broad. Knowing where you want to position yourself and your offering is going to be the key to success here. And what people most willing to pay for, or older people willing most to pay for, is to improve the quality and how they age. And that goes beyond than just health and medical. It's about a large ecosystem of product and providers. So I thank you today for staying through my presentations, and I hope we can journey with you into this exciting industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Ibu Silwin. Very interesting information again, and we saw a lot of options of future trends, and those can actually be achieved, all of them. So it is very interesting to see the future of aging business and economy that can take place in Indonesia as well, knowing the potential that we have. Thank you, Ibu Silwin.
Thank you.
And now Sama-sama. To follow up with what Ibu Silwin has been presenting to us, we have the fourth speaker, Bapak Nararia Ciputra Sastrawinata. He is now currently the director of Ciputra Group Indonesia. Pak Nararia is an Indonesian citizen. He is 34 years old now. He has been entrusted as the director of the company from 2017. He obtained an international bachelor diploma degree from the United World College of Southeast Asia, Singapore, and Master of in Singapore, and Master of Engineering from Imperial College London in England. He joined the Ciputra Group and was involved in Citra Raya Tangerang project in 2009 as Business Development Officer, and held various positions as Associate Project Director at Grand Sanyang International City from 2009 to 2013, Business Development Manager of Citra Garden City, Jakarta, 2013 to 2014, Corporate Development GM at Ciputra Group in 2015, as well as Associate Director in 2016 and Director from 2017 until now. I would like to welcome Pak Nararia to give his presentation. He will be giving the presentation on the role of the private sector in expanding Indonesia's silver economy, especially sharing his experience with Ciputra Group. Please, Pak Nararia, your time is about 15 minutes.
Thank you, Pak Dinar. Is the screen shared already?
It is. It is not full screen though. I'm not sure why.
Oh,
it's kind of square, not wide screen.
Is that?
Yeah, this one is better.
Okay. Okay, I think I'll start off. Thank you, of course, Bappenas, for arranging this webinar and inviting me. Hello to the other speakers. So I think I'll start off by sharing a little bit about our company, started by Mr. Ciputra. Since the initial part, Mr. Ciputra's philosophy is building cities, building life. So we specialize in large township projects and ranges from 50 hectares to thousands of hectares, predominantly based in Indonesia, but we also have projects in Vietnam, Cambodia, and China. And we are spread around all over Indonesia for the projects. Mostly in Java, but we're also in Kalimantan and Sumatra. So we mostly target larger cities in Indonesia. And I would like to share more specifically for this topic today is our project Citra Garden City. This is actually the first project of Ciputra Group when we started in the 1980s. And we are still, we progressively by acquire more land and develop the project. Currently, we're at about 450 hectares. So the location is in the west of Jakarta, between the central Jakarta and the airport. So it's about a few minutes from the airport. Now we already have about 10,000 units sold in the project and about 50,000 people living in the area now. So it's quite a mature project. And over time, we noticed that the buyers, since in Indonesia, families tend to stay closer together. We now have about 3 generations, a lot of 3-generation families living in this project itself. And through the years, we noticed also the first buyers from the 1980s and the early 90s, they're starting to reach the seniors age group. And we see that it is an opportunity for us. And also as giving back to the community and the facilities of the township, that we need to more and more focus to cater to this demography. So we have initially tried to do community activities just amongst all age groups, including the seniors age group. But since last year, actually we thought that we needed to have a more formal vehicle to focus more towards the seniors. We call it Citra Premier, and we started in 2019. And this is a pilot project in Ciputra Group as well. Not by chance that we chose the oldest project in the group, because that's where we think is the highest age group that we can cater to. So we are working together with Living Well Seniors Communities. They are based in Australia, but they have already managed communities all over Australia and also consultancy basis in other countries, Indonesia and China as well. So we set it up together with Living Well Communities. We call it Citra Premier. And we opened it last year. So this is we chose this location. We have an apartment project here. So the 450 hectares actually predominantly is landed housing. But since about 4 or 5 years ago, we have started going into mid-rise apartments. And this specific location is actually located next to a lake. If you can see one of the photos down below there. We thought that this is quite a good location. The environment is really open. It's close to our commercial area for the supermarket and also the F&Bs. And very nearby, we have we operate hospitals as well, Ciputra Hospital, and this is located about 10 minutes from the one of our hospitals within the project. And so that's why we decided that this would be a good location to start. And I think I'll just share some photos of what we have tried to do. So we have lounges and private cinemas, and also daily activities for them. We have dedicated staff in Citra Premier, but we also work together with the Ciputra Hospital, of course. We collaborated we have a lot of schools within our project as well. So we collaborate between the schools and the senior communities to have both age groups to have their they both can benefit from it. I mean, the younger children, they have things to gain from helping the elderlies, and of course the seniors age group enjoy if they can stay active and hang around with the younger crowd. But of course we have a lot of learnings. I think as the previous speakers have mentioned, that we have a lot of to learn from the other countries. Currently Indonesia is still learning in terms of the acceptance of having a senior members club. I think a lot of families usually have their elderly stay with them, and it might be seen as a negative factor, or the children not taking care of their parents if they're put in a senior care. But over time we see there's a change in this stigma, and they see the benefits of having their parents also have daily activities instead of just staying at home, maybe with their helpers. Which brings me to the next obstacles we found is economic factor. In Indonesia, the habit is also have a helpers in the house. So I think maybe it's a little bit different from the Western countries and maybe Japan, where it's very tough to have helpers. So most of the time, if someone stays at home, they'll be alone. But in Indonesia, you will have helpers most of the time, so that can accompany the elderly person. So it's an added function in terms of their daily job. So that's what usually comes into is either they spend this membership fee maybe to a seniors club to take care of their parents and for during when they're in the office, compared to them having a helper in the house who also accompanies and also take care of their parents. Of course, the difference is in the level of professionalism. I mean, in terms of the medical staff and also the activities. I mean, most of the time they'll probably just stay home and watch TV. I think that's the biggest difference that needs to be conveyed and to the other people. And what we found also is, I think it's relates to the first part, where there's not a lot of businesses that caters to the seniors that we see at the moment in a widespread way, which limits the acceptance as well, saying that, oh, this is a new thing in Jakarta. That so we are hoping that more and more, together with the others, and so of course Aging Asia has been doing a lot of the education as well in Southeast Asia, that more and more companies will come up. So when we try to explain what Citra Premier is, it will be a faster process and can be accepted more. And of course, I think from Ibu in the opening speech, saying that the government involvement is very important. We found as for long-term project as a developer company, of course, we cannot do much if there is no government support. We find that the incentives and the push for private sector to take care of the senior age population is not really there at the moment. It can be more focused. I think, as the previous speakers mentioned, in Australia and Japan, there's a lot of government push to help create this new economy, in the sense that from a developer's point of view, it can be incentives in terms of planning or permits, which helps a lot. I mean, at the moment, we build Citra Premier, or even the facilities for the clubhouse for it. We sort of have to, in the end, have to choose economically for a company, compared to the idealism to push this concept forward, which is a bit unfortunate. And we feel that the government can play a big part in that to help so that developers such as don't have to choose. I think that's the sort of vision that why we started Citra Premier. And I guess from our point of view, these are the points that how to make it more successful. Of course, it's been only going on for a bit more than a year, and that is unfortunately the pandemic. Since the pandemic started, I think because they're in the most age group at risk, so we had to close down the activities. But of course, we tried to do it online and using online methods, but it's a little bit different. Yeah. I think I'll just show some photos now, just for what we have tried to do. This is again with the hospital and the schools that we do. And these are the buildings and the specifications. We had to modify our clubhouse and units so that it will be more friendly to the seniors age group. is our hospitals. And security, I think, helps a lot that our residents are, of course, comfortable with our level of security, so that they are comfortable to leave their parents inside our facilities during the day. We connect this panic button to our hospital, and these are the wearables, the active wearables that we give to our members. And these location photos. It's within our apartment project. We see that these communities might be more suitable for apartments as well, because from what we notice, if it's a general homeowners or new homeowners, they prefer maybe landed housing because of future, maybe they want to increase the size of the house and other considerations. But for senior communities, we actually think that apartment is quite will be more how do you call it, effective in terms of the monitoring their health, and also keeping the services and the building management much more controlled compared to landed housing. I think that's where the apartment market can be more suitable. Sorry, just some more photos. I think I wouldn't take much more of your time, because I think we'll go towards the question and answers. So I think that's in general what we have tried to do in the past 1 or so year. Of course, the discussion with Living Well actually started about 3-4 years ago, but we finally got the ball rolling last year. I think that's it from me, Pak Dinar. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Pak Nararia, for your presentation and sharing all of the good stories from Ciputra. I think it will be useful for us, and of course, it will be desirable for us to see more of this in the future, especially knowing that the population, older people population in Indonesia will increase quite rapidly in the next 20 to 25 years. And now I would like to invite. We have 2 discussants today. And I would like to invite them to provide some responses to the presentation of the speakers. The first one, I would like to invite Bapak Leonardo Adipurnomo, alias Teguh Sambodo. Currently, Pak Leo is the Director for Industry, Tourism, and Creative Economy in the National Development Planning Agency, or Bappenas, in Indonesia. Pak Leo went to IPB and got his bachelor degree there, and then he received his Master of Science in Agricultural Economics from Cornell University, and his PhD in Farm Management from Lincoln University in Canterbury, New Zealand. I would like to invite you, Pak Leo, to provide some insights and responses on the presentation that have been given by the speakers, especially on how there are various opportunities for aging business or aging economy in Indonesia. And especially from your position as the Director of Industry, Tourism, and Creative Economy, would this be a good opportunity for us as well? I give you around 5 minutes, Pak Leo, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Pak Dinar. Thank you for the invitation, Pak Maliki. And thank you for the speakers, David Lane, Professor Kadoya, Ibu Selwyn, and Pak Nararia. I have actually five points that we like to raise. That I would like to raise for the comments. The first one is for us, Indonesia, to start. Or for the government start to support the development of silver economy in Indonesia as one of the options for maybe beside facilitating the target groups, but also to create more opportunities for jobs and also for improving livelihoods. I would like to note that one thing that we need is to have more data. As Bu Selwyn has provided us with the projection, I think in Indonesia the data is the data are more complex. As we know that, for example, once many of the elderly are retired, are on the retirement stage, so the level of purchasing power is decreasing. So the issue is how we can also secure that they have disposable income sufficiently to support them to access different product and services that are in good quality and can sustain their lifestyle and level of livelihoods. For us in Bappenas and in my area, I still see that beside their purchasing power, the other issue is related to the digital divide. We see that not all of the elderly in Indonesia are well educated. There are many of them are among within the group of maybe low income population. So we have found that within this population, low income population, digital divide is very high. Because in terms of the use of computers, the use of internet, even the use of cell phone. So this is why when we are discussing about whether technology can help them to provide goods and services that suit with meet with their needs, the question again whether they can use the technology and also can benefit optimally from the technology. What opportunity that we have for Indonesia currently, I think there are two strategies that we can use. The first one, we can respond to the global markets. First, as Professor Kadoya mentioned, maybe we can send the care workers from Indonesia to Japan. This has been the case in many occasions since several years ago. Of course, the standard is very high, but there are many agents, Japanese agents in Indonesia that can help us to improve our capability in providing care workers. The second is to tap in the tourism market for seniors. That is why when we are talking in Indonesia about medical tourism, we also think about whether we can also provide retirement house or some area that can also cater their needs, so they can stay, they can get medical services in the same location. Bali, Jakarta, and Medan are the three cities that are currently considered to be the host of the future medical tourism in Indonesia. This will also cater senior members of the population. The third one is goods. I believe that maybe in Asia and also in developed countries in Asia and also in Europe and maybe in USA, I think most of the goods are not supplied by local value chains. So that is why it is important for us also in Indonesia to tap into this market to provide a good goods, to provide products that can meet global markets. This is the opportunity that we would like to use. But again, we need more data about this. And then for Indonesia itself, I think there are several opportunities that we can further develop to improve our support to the silver economy. Is the first one is to provide to continue public expenditure, especially for healthcare and also for living support for the elderly. So that is why we think that how we can also involve them in the productive activity learning from on how Ministry of Industry in Indonesia use Silver Expert Program, inviting ex-CEO managers from big industries to become mentors, to become lecturers for small and medium industries. This is something that we see will create mutual benefits. In one side, we will get a good experienced lecturers, mentors for small and medium enterprises, but at the same time, we also provide income opportunity for the senior experts. The other one is to involve them in entrepreneurship. Because they have already experienced networks, this is something that we see very potential to invite them to join the labor market through entrepreneurship. So maybe they can also create more job opportunities for the people. And maybe they can also involve, because they are in the same groups, maybe we can also allow them or support them to create a business or working environment that can also allow other members of senior citizen to join as the workers, so they can suit the time and also the work arrangement according to the capacity. And lastly, I think one of the issue also standards. I actually like the idea of Society 5.0 that was launched in Japan several years ago, on how Japan would like to embrace the advancement of digital technology to help not all one group of population, but integrate all groups within the population to connect each other. So this is something that we can also see as one of the opportunity, how the healthcare service can link to the job opportunities, and also link different age group within the population facilitated by technology. So I think Pak Dinar, that is all my comments for the presentation by the panelists. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pak Leo. I think those are good comments. We will be back to you in a moment. Now I would like to invite Pak Maliki. The next discussion, Pak Maliki is currently the Director of Poverty Alleviation and Community Empowerment in Bappenas. He went to Institute Teknologi Bandung, or Bandung Technological Institute, and got his master's degree from Purdue University, the USA. He finished his doctoral degree in economics in the University of Hawaii with a specialization in development economics, economics of population, labor economics, and economics of aging. I would like to provide the floor to you, Pak Maliki. You have about 5 minutes to give general responses on the presentations of the speakers. The floor is yours, Pak.
Okay, thank you, Mas Dinar. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat sore, salam sejahtera bagi kita semua, Bapak dan Ibu yang terhormat, distinguished speakers, Bapak David Lane, Mr. Kadoya, Bapak Nararia, dan also Ibu Silwin. Thank you for your insights. There's a lot of interesting ideas, as well as, give us also some insights to stimulate our policy in the future, I guess. So one of the main takeaways from all of your speaking, your presentation is that we actually have quite different characteristics between, say, Australia as well as Indonesia. With Japan, of course, is quite different. And also, Ibu Silvin also mentioned about our potentials. But the main takeout from some of your presentation is that actually our aging, our potential is have to be based on our own characteristics. So this is, I think this is one very big point that we actually have to start with, how actually Indonesia can find his own silver economy potentials. So to begin with, before I mention several points that I also get from the presentations, I have a few numbers that also describe how actually the potentials of our silver economy, even though this is not all sectors that we have, but it is very feasible that we have to explore further, and also how we can stimulate these industries in the nearest futures. So in 2020, as Ibu Amalia mentioned, we already have like 28 millions of the older persons. This is 60 plus older populations, and quite huge. Even though we have like very low percentages of the older persons in the regions, but in terms of the quantity, we have quite a lot. And this is that's why Sylvian, I think, also mentions that we will be like the second biggest silver economy in Asia, because our populations of older persons is quite big. Within 20 years, we will have like doubling. So it will become like 57 million. So it only takes like 20 years. So this is our actually windows of opportunity for us on how we can optimally use these populations, not only as a subjects of not only as objects of the development, but also have as a subject. So in terms of, I just mentioned a few sectors that I think already mentioned by the speakers. First says like the real estate and also healthcare industries. This is only like the profile of those who are living alone. From 28 millions, we estimate that 1.4 millions are living alone. Like so, elderly, mostly like the female elderly, and maybe only like 40% are the young or the male elderly. And we estimate that we have like upper and middle income with assets. This is two questions actually already raised by Pak Teguh. How actually the elderly can have disposable income. Actually, maybe they have quite small disposable income, but they have assets. So we estimate that we have like 150,000 of the elderly have assets. So this is quite a good, I think, potentials market for senior living, senior residential, retirement village, as Bu Sylvian, as well as I think David also mentioned, and also Pak Ciputra. And then in the other hand, we have also a few millions of elderly who needs like a long-term care. So we estimate that those who need like long-term care is around 2.2 millions. And if we deep down again, for those who have need long-term care, they need a formal caregiver. So those who approximately only 20% of those who have the need long-term care needs now currently have like a formal caregiver. So this is like 450,000, and this is a quite huge potential markets. From the other sides, that we have like open opportunity for labor, as well as the potential market for training, as well as education industries for other persons caregiver. So, and then the third one is tourism and leisure industries. This is already like the most mentioned industries. Pak Teguh also mentions. So if we say it's like those who interested on this one, and very specific markets for this one is the other persons that live with the couples. So we estimate those one is like 2.7 million, and says that the market is only for upper and middle income. So those ones like 1.5 millions. So this is quite also good potential market for other persons, for leisure, tourism, Says like wedding anniversaries, senior clubs, event organizations for seniors, also reunion meetings. So this one is like a very small captive industries that I mean we can see easily visible for us. We don't see any. We haven't seen like any potential market as Yoshihiko mentioned about the technology innovations on the healthcare. So there's a few things that we need to highlight. Maybe the Indonesian government have to like urgently stimulate our silver economy by these highlights. So this what I already described is like the potential markets. And as Pak Teguh is the director for industry, I guess this one is also one homework for you that we need to have like investment policy for more private involvement on stimulating these particular industries that supporting the older person's needs. And also, I was kind of struck with what Yoshihiko showed about all the products for the elderly that we need like show from the result of the research and development. A lot of healthcare that is not really usual types, but it is already shown. And I believe that also Bu Silwin's now is like in the event of the aging economy, what we call a workshop or event. Yeah. I also saw that there is a lot of innovation product from European, from Australia, from America, also from most of them are the modern, developed countries. And this is something that we have to also explore, how we can also put more funds for research and development so that we can find more products that is fit with our natures. And I also quite thankful for Yoshihiko about educate our generations. Oh, I think this one is from Pak David Lane. Educate our generations about ageism and respect. This one is the one that I think I always repeat it again and again while I'm speaking about the aging for the whole, for a few events. And this one is quite important because it seems like our younger generations also hasn't seen that ageism is in their nearest futures. Yeah, and then we have to prepare accordingly. It's not their homework. So, and then local innovations. This one is also quite urgent that we have to do. And I think this one is have quite a lot of proposals and also including the poverty alleviations, I guess. And the last one is on continuation educations. I think there is a picture from Ciputra. There is also a few facilities in your housing complex that allows the elderly to have the continuing educations and learning. And this one is quite important because it can maintain health and well-being of the elderly. So lastly, I just want to ask and also to mengajak seluruh dari kita that this is our aging and let's make for our own. Yeah, so and this is from us and also for us. Thank you, Pak Dinar.
Thank you very much, Pak Maliki, and also thank you for the message for us. That we have to, of course, develop this from us and also for us in the future. Now, I do have some questions to the discussion, so I would like to re-invite Pak Leo. It's very interesting, a very interesting response from you, and I also wrote down that you've been identifying some potential future aging business that can be developed in Indonesia, including the tourism, and you also mentioned about the medical tourism as well. That probably will be quite interesting for some for older people, probably both in Indonesia and abroad. I just would like to know if currently there is a plan from the government of Indonesia to incentivize private sector to work more on this market of older people. We heard earlier from David Lane that the government needs to incentivize private sector to take role in if we want to expand this economy properly, because probably it's not going to be automatically expanding if we are not if the government is not intervening. Please kindly let us know, Leo, if you have any information on whether the government is planning to do that, or if there is any policy regarding that currently. Please, Pak Leo.
To be honest, I don't know, but so far, but I believe that we haven't had been approached with hard data that will inform us about, like the one that Pak Maliki has presented, that which part of the population need to be served, what is their status, economic, social economic status, yeah, condition, and whether they need or they require specific goods and services for them. Of course, for services, they are some that are provided by the government, by public expenditure, including in healthcare and others, and also social security. But for other products, this means that we still need to advise to provide more data for relevant stakeholders to agree upon special policy or that will provide a solution to that will respond to this emerging need. And in the case of medical tourism, for example, we haven't discussed whether it will also cater senior citizen, but at least with the medical tourism, some of the previous discussion on how Indonesia would like to attract investors, for example, to Bali, to set up a retirement area in Bali, in western Bali. And then whether we discuss how we can also cater different medical services required by different levels of population according to their income level, because as with the growing numbers of middle income population, I think more high quality services are required. So specific discussion on how the government will incentivize investors that are going to go, that are going to support the development of silver economy. We haven't had any discussion about that. We still need more data.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Pak Leo. My next question is to Pak Maliki. Your position now is very interesting as the director of the poverty alleviation and community empowerment. So you have to a very important job to alleviate poverty and also to empower the community in general. And of course, the aging population, older people, will be one of the population group that need to be empowered as well. With this aging, would you see this aging economy, the expansion of aging economy in Indonesia as one opportunity to also alleviate poverty? I would really like to know your view and your insight on the connection of this expansion of aging economy to the poverty alleviation. Please, Pak Maliki.
Okay, maybe I can see it from two perspectives, as the elderly as the object itself, and then the elderly as the subject. For the elderly as object, we know that most of the like the middle income, I think most of the elderly in Indonesia is still quite productive beyond 60, and especially for those like poor and vulnerable, they're still working at the informal sectors. And but you know that because most of the low for the poor and also the vulnerable, they quite like low educated as also low skills. So that's why they have quite low. They work in the informal sectors with low paid workings types. So I think for us in this perspective is that how actually the industry that can support the informal sectors that is done by the poor elderly. I think this is quite a lot of examples, says like in Yogyakarta or Solo, you know, East Java, also I think West Java. So there is a lot of like food industries that is produced by this poor elderly. And this is the time for us, maybe we can like identify and then how we can support them. And then so we can see how unique they already produce some products that we can promote them to the markets, you know. Like gudeg in Yogyakarta, there's a lot of like elderly legends produce this one. But though, I mean, there's a lot of, still quite a lot of poor elderly. So this is one opportunity. And but the other sides, on the elderly as a subjects, we are looking forward for like community empowerment. You know that for those like middle income and up, usually need to have like a quite a unique type of experience for having says like a leisure times or vacation time. I think maybe if it is possible, you know, like in the local, at the local context, we can also develop something like what we call tourism's village, you know, that can adapt the demand of the elderly needs, you know. Says like the elderly like being going back to the villages where they were raised or was born, then they can also rememorize it again. And this one is quite an interesting experience for them. And this one is not actually like a new idea because there's a lot of elderly going back as like in the reunion event to the villages. And this one is, I think, also potential for us to explore and also to develop as one of the potential for tourism sectors. So this is only very small areas that we can mention, but I think we still can have a lot of relation between the silver economy and also the poverty alleviations and also community empowerment. That's all.
Thank you, Pak Maliki. I think it's very interesting. I agree with you that currently informal workers are quite a lot in Indonesia, and many older people are still actually quite active in the labor market, working as informal workers. So standardizing them, providing them with more opportunity will contribute to both their welfare, reducing poverty, as well as expanding silver economy, as they will be the main actor of the aging economy. Now, we still have about 20-25 minutes for discussion with all of the speakers. I would like to thank some of the speakers that have been actively answering questions and in Zoom. There are still several questions that I would like to raise, and I'll just ask these two questions to all speakers now. So in Indonesia, and I believe in other locations as well, probably in different degree, there has been gap between both the poor and vulnerable older people, and also older people that belong to the higher socioeconomic status. And of course, the way this aging economy will benefit these two different group of older people is something that is interesting to be discussed. The business opportunities that have been presented by Ibu Silwin, for example, I'm not sure if all of those will be demanded equally between older people that belong to the lower socioeconomic status compared to the middle and upper class older people. So I would like to hear your insights on how aging economy probably have different impact aging or silver economy has different impact toward different older people belonging to different socioeconomic status. And then the second question that I think is also interesting is that many speakers and panelists have been saying about aging in place, and I would like to hear your insight as well, especially from Pak Naraya that has been working more on the senior residential allocation as well as a real estate business for older people, whether this is something that has been of your interest as well, instead of building a senior residential, for example, whether it's also in your interest to improve the quality of housing for older people so they can age in place without having to leave their current house, for example. I think that will be my two questions, and I would like to ask Professor Kadoya first to probably have your insights on this. Please, Professor Kadoya.
All right. Yeah. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to answer this very, very important question. Well, I guess like the current situation is that everybody project to be in a super aging society ahead of us, so that we should invest more in the silver economy, because the prediction is to be right. So that's where we are. But the issue is that silver economy, especially targeting the elderly, is unique market in the sense that the elderly themselves don't even know what they want. As Dr. Leonardo mentioned that there's a digital divide. Some elderly don't even know what to do with the digital technology, etc. So what we gonna do? We have all like a technology available on one hand, but we don't really know what the elderly really want, because elderly themselves don't even know what they want. There's a gap in between. How are we gonna fulfill the gap? The key word is care workers, because those who know the best about the needs of the elderly is absolutely care worker, because they take care of the elderly all the time. That's why I'm saying that we need to enhance the productivity so that we can raise the wage of the care worker, so that the talented or skilled worker came into the market and become the care workers. Those smart people would uncover the hidden needs of the elderly. All like tourism things, all the fancy stuff, all the technologies available out there. But the last 1 mile marketing is missing, because elderly themselves don't even know what to do. So care worker is the one who can fulfill the gap. That's why I'm saying that we should invest on the care worker. We should invest on the related technology, so that we can enhance the productivity that eventually leads to raise the wage of the care worker, so that the talented people come into the market and they become care workers. And those people serve as a marketer in the silver economy. That's what I think. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Kadoya. I would like to invite David Lin, if you have any insights on this.
Yes, thank you. Look, there's a couple of points I'd like to make just in direct response to those questions. I should have made it in my initial comments, and one of them is that having worked for over 30 years in Asian countries, I'm firmly of the view that most of the developing countries in Asia will see the market develop from high net worth individuals being offered products and services initially, and it will bleed down through the economy as people's understanding of the services and products become better recognised, and in so doing will eventually be able to be taken up by both the middle income groups and the lower income groups. This is quite directly the reverse of what happened in most Western countries. So in most Western countries, most services were originally provided to those who could not afford to be cared for themselves, and that's where the role of the not-for-profits became quite critical. I think you will find that in your country in particular, there will still be a strong role, a vital role, in fact, for the not-for-profit sector. But I think it's a multifaceted economic discussion. The government must intervene, must provide an injection of policies and incentives to activate interest across the sectors, across the low income, middle income, and leave the upper income to the free market, because generally that market is capable of developing its own unique product. One point I would make about that, though, is that there's a fallacy in the view that people from the wealthy cohorts don't really need to have special services or facilities because they can afford to pay for a driver or a maid or a carer or even a full-time nurse. But it does not avoid the problems of loneliness and isolation, which are fundamentally at the heart of all of the issues in ageing. So that's the first point I'd make about the economic situation. The second point about ageing in place, and I can be a little bit controversial here. I got into trouble in Australia for telling the national conference when, in response to a question of if aged care is such a big issue, what would you do if you had a choice? And I said, well, the first thing I would do is not build any more nursing homes in Australia. And my point was, and obviously people overreacted to that, but my point was that we are very close in the capacity in our country with the training and the education and with the technology available to effectively deliver high-level nursing home care in the home. But it only works when you have family and or carer support who also live with or near the person involved. So these strategies can help to normalise a person's expectation of what home means, what family means, but we have to be very careful that we don't then exclude people who themselves don't have extended family, don't get the support, and that's where the role of the not-for-profit sector, I believe, will come into play.
So, thank you. So are you saying that aging in place is only for those with close family and not for those who don't have a close family and live by themselves? Is that your point?
No, not really. But if you couple the concept of aging in place is simply to allow people as best they can to remain in the surroundings that they're familiar with. That doesn't necessarily mean they stay at home. It could mean that they live in a uniquely designed facility, quite small, in their local village or in the area near the shops or all of those sort of things. But where people start needing high dependency levels of care, you can't expect that care to suddenly, become available when people don't even know what they don't know. So if they're locked in and isolated in their own home, people won't even know that they're needing of care. So I think it's quite important that the whole community is activated to monitor and to engage with older people in an aging in place strategy. It's really a two-way communication exercise. I've seen a lot of mistakes made, particularly when I was working in Hong Kong. We made a lot of mistakes at both a governmental level and assumptions by consultants level on what people wanted. It was a very important point that Professor just made, that many older people don't know what they don't know. And if they don't know and the carers don't know, you've got a real problem.
Thank you. Very clear. Yeah, so related to that, I would really like to invite Pak Nararia to jump in and probably comment on the concept of aging in place. And I know that you've been working on building environment and residential location for the senior. And what do you think about this aging in place and the idea of developing an environment for aging in place in where they live, so they are familiar with where they are? It's very interesting. Please let us know your insight on this, Pak Nararia.
Thank you, Pak. I think about chiming in, I think it's similar to what David mentioned just now, that it's good to be, especially in Indonesia, the stigma is that families stay together and you take care of the elderly. Mm-hmm. That is still the general stigma, that it's really, really we need to educate that there is another option, and it is not necessarily a negative, that the elderly would like some other companies other than their families who probably will be busy in their other activities. I think answering more specifically from a developer point of view, we focus on the independent senior living part. I think there's other models that is more assisted living or dependent living. I think that's not quite suitable for us as a developer. I think that would be more towards companies who focus more on the medical industries or services industries. So not necessarily saying that in Indonesia, the independent senior living is the model to go, but it's more from our background as a developer. So, and then regarding we have the benefit also that the facilities and the public facilities and the community centers are already in place, that we do not have to make a specific one for cater to the elderly only. We of course would need, as I shared earlier, do some modifications in terms of the accessibility and also the safety and other technologies as the panic button and such. But it's not a major retrofit. And we can ensure that they also still feel part of the community, that to say they've been part of the past 30, 40 years. And they're comfortable at it. Their children are there, their grandchildren are there. I don't think it's realistic to uproot them that easily. So us, we also have hospitals. They are focusing as well on studying, of course, for dependent living. We haven't started it yet, but I think it's going there because our hospitals in the early age. So that's, I think, from a developer's point of view, why we chose to be more focused on independent living and aging in place. I think I would also like to touch upon the first question regarding the silver economy for different social class. I think I touched upon it earlier, and David also mentioned earlier as well, that the private sector will solve itself as long as the numbers work. I think government just needs to make the right incentives to push for the economy to grow. We see it as well in another segment that we are also heavily involved in, which is in affordable housing. We in our township, in a scale of thousands of hectares, it's inevitable that you cater to all target segments. We sell houses ranging from $10,000 up to $2 million within the same project. So affordable housing, which is usually, if you see our nearest neighbor like Singapore, that's more towards the government's involvement. But in Indonesia, I think a lot of a private sector is involved in affordable housing. And the reason for that is throughout the whole system, in terms of the banking for the financing and also the taxes and also the permits. The government provides a lot of support. And so the private sector there's really quite a small barrier of entry for that market, and also to make a sustainable company. And I think this should be sort of the route that the aging economy goes towards, because the private sector is, as I said earlier, as long as the numbers work, the private sector will come. I think that's where the cooperation between the government and the private sector will be very important.
Thank you, Pak Nararia. I think your explanation is very smart, and I I'm very interested on your further explanation of your project that it looks like you've been developing a community where even people who are not older people yet, who are not elderly yet, can stay there and then see that as a perfect place for them to stay and then to grow old as well. So this is what we are thinking as well in the much bigger scope in the national level to improve the mainstreaming and inclusiveness of our environment to other people. So they will see the location where they live as a good place for them to stay and also grow old, supported by the community or even government policy that enable them to live independently, but they don't also have to be worried when they at some point won't be able to live independently again. There will be support for them. So thank you so much for providing this information. And now, Ibu Selwyn, you have the last slot of time, so let us know your insight on this, and especially you've been explaining to us so many opportunities for the future aging business and what you've been working a lot in the aging economy. And I want to know from your experience how to deal with the gap among older people population groups, since of course it can be very diverse like we have in Indonesia. Please, Ibu Selwyn.
Thank you, Pak Dinar. I think I like what David, and I echo what David have just now mentioned. I think one thing to note is that doesn't matter what is your socio-economic standing in any society, loneliness and dementia does not discriminate. And that is two key trends that we notice in with the aging society or changing aging demographic will be a big factor as well. So it's not so much as probably social economy. That aside, looking at generally the definition of older people, it can be very, very diverse. It's just like if you look at a car, for example, there are some vintage car that can still be working very well, even though it's probably made at the same year, and they are a vintage car that probably ended up in the junkyard. And it's all about how you keep, how you maintain, how you repair. So active aging, it will be something that is needed no matter what socioeconomy you are. And again, as David has mentioned, in a lot of the advanced aging society, such as Australia, such as Japan, and also in Singapore, you'll see that actually provision of such services or such safety net for the aged people, mostly driven by the government for the vulnerable group. In Singapore, Aging Asia started a wellness club for seniors over 55 called Aspire 55 back in 4 years ago. And the reason why we started that is because we noticed the middle income group in Singapore has no such activity centers where they can join, where they can keep active, where they can continue to socialize. If you go, however, to the HDB, as we call it, Housing Development Board, which is basically the housing that is provided by the government, you'll see most of this housing estates will have a clubhouse, or rather they call it activity centers or senior centers, where they can come together, socialize, and they can then advocate healthy living or certain activities for them to keep healthy and age better. And we noticed there's this gap with the middle upper income group, and we started this particular trial. And yes, we've definitely seen a huge, it's not an immediate fast interest from this particular group of demographic that we are targeting at. And so that is echoing like what Professor Cordelia said, they may not know what they don't know yet. But once we created that products or that service and we show it to them, you can see the engagement. We have hardly any people not joining us for any of the sessions. So they turn up 100% attendance for every of the sessions that we provide. So yeah, I guess from our observation, it's not so much as social economy, but I think that the needs is there, the demand is there, the products will look different, the services will look different. And again, as I mentioned just now in the closing of my presentations, it is a very diverse, very broad industry. So you can position yourself according to where you want to position, where you see your product fit best.
Thank you, Bu Silwin. Thank you so much for all speakers and discussants. We are now 3:50 p.m. now in Indonesia, and we are very close to the end of the webinar. So I would like to ask your permission to also close this session of discussion. I just would like to highlight some of the key messages that I try to collect from all of you. There have been messages about how the role of government would still be important in improving this aging economy. In Australia, it seems that government plays a very significant role in both expanding and maintaining the aging economy. And as David Lane has mentioned as well, some type of subsidy, different supports to different socioeconomic status of older people will still be necessary to both provide them with what they need and also to keep the aging economies running. We've been also hearing from both of Professor Kadoya and also Ibu Silwin how aging economy will provide benefit to all older people regardless of their social status, because there are problems that are quite persistent across different social class, like loneliness and depression. So even if the type of the services, the quality of the services probably have slight differences across different social class of the older people who receive that, still it's a service that needs to be procured in the market and needs to be incentivized to be there. And then about aging in place, it seems like it's probably one of the big message today, that it's the most optimal way for older people to go old, even though we cannot forget that at some point they probably will still need support, and that has to be available when it's needed. And Pak Nararia has mentioned a good point that he has been developing within his business to create an environment that is friendly to older people, that probably even when you're not old yet, you can still join the community and then decide to grow old there. This has to be something that can be escalated into the national level by the government, creating an inclusive environment for everyone, for older people, so they wouldn't have to worry about their old age. They can decide to stay there, grow old there, and then get supports anywhere they want to be. I think that would be some of the key messages from the discussion today. I would like to thank again all of the speakers and discussants for attending the event today and discussing this very interesting topic with us. And I would like to I would like to thank all of the audience that have been sending messages, questions. I'm sorry I cannot accommodate all of your questions due to the time limitation, but hopefully you'll be joining us from now on to provide your inputs and recommendations to us. I would like to give back this session to Ms. Radesma, the MC for today. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you again for all of the speakers and discussants. Selamat siang. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Bapak Dinar Karisma, esteemed panelists, and all discussants for the great session today. We learned so much from what we have discussed. So ladies and gentlemen, we are remind you that all materials of today's presentations can be downloaded by clicking the link bit.ly/olderpeoplematerials. To close, I'd like to invite Dr. Maliki, Director of Poverty Alleviation and Community Empowerment, Ministry of National Development Planning or Bappenas, to deliver the closing remarks. Bapak Maliki, the floor is yours.
Terima kasih Ibu Mbak Radesma. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat sore, salam sejahtera bagi kita semua, Bapak dan Ibu yang terhormat. distinguished speakers. Please accept our apologies that our deputy, Pak Pungki, cannot attend this closing remarks because he have urgent meetings to attend, and allow me to have this closing remarks. So distinguished speakers, also the participants, we actually have come to the final webinar seminars. So today's webinars on silver economies is the last from a series of consisting of 4 webinars. So the first webinar focused on the results of our Silani. This is the information system of our other persons that have been piloted in the provinces. This one is covering for almost 14,000 other persons. So based on these data collections, we found that around 10% of all the people have faced difficulties in conducting their daily activities and also need support in long-term care. The rest are divided into 2 groups. First is those who are healthy and also active older people without health problems. And then the second one is older people with only minimum health problems. So the main takeout for this webinar is that we need to have like long-term care programs for older people with difficulties, and also other programs for healthy and active older persons that are based on the community. So the second is particularly important is to prevent healthy older people to experience early health problems. The second webinar focused on the results of the same Silani, but we conducting phone survey during the COVID, this pandemic COVID, covering around 3,500 respondents. The survey collected information on the impact of COVID-19 on all the people. So the pandemic has mixed impacts on the older persons, health problems, and some of this evidence shows that some of the people felt more stressed, worried, and also lonely. I think as we earlier discussed, that lonely is not like a strange thing for the older persons. And then this pandemic COVID also put more stress on this particular mental health problems. But also there's a few elderly that have some indications that this pandemic have quite a lot of positive sides because of this lockdown. So it's like a lot of family values have been more invested during the pandemic COVID. Other people living with the families have been involved a lot in providing childcare. So this is one positive side, which also make them these older persons feel more useful. And also support for other people and their family needed to be provided during this pandemic to prevent more devastated mental health problems. While the webinar 3, we discussed the future of older people policy in Indonesia. So primarily based on informations collected through the same informations of Silani. So the issues covered include the need to integrate care and also services for older people, and increase the availability, quality, and also financial sustainability of the programs. This has to be supported by quite strong mainstreaming efforts, including creating a friendly market and also business climate for other people, as well as people providing services and goods for other people. So come to our last webinar today. We are discussing about the potential silver economy. One of the key messages from the earlier webinar is that the importance of the mainstreaming and accommodating of the markets for the support all the people. So this is one thing that we follow from the previous webinar that we discussed today. Other persons, as the speakers and also the discussion already mentions, that we have like around 25 million now and also doubling in within next 20 years. And it is predicted that Indonesia will have like the second largest silver economy after China. So most of the other people will belong to the middle class. So therefore, other people's demand for various goods and also services will increase, including health devices, medicines, that is now like both including medical and also herbal, senior supporting technology, senior residence, as well as high quality home care and also daycare services. Aging economy strategies should accommodate both. The industry needs to expand to fulfill the needs of goods and services for other people. The market also needs to start seeing other people as potential employees, especially in some specific sectors, including health and social care. We have learned from successful experiences. Thank you for Mr. David Land, also Mr. Kadoya, and also Pak Nariarya and Bu Silwin. So we have quite a lot of takeout from you. From Australia, I think the main takeouts that are quite memorable is that the government policy will have to focus on staff efficiency, strengthening understanding of social capital, community in, participation in aging, and also friendly residential for other people. For Japan, I think the most effective way is to increase productivity, to increase worker skills and invest in technology so that the wages increases, skilled workers attracted, care quality improve, frail older people is also secured, people no longer worries about later life, and also this will boost the silver economy. For the Asia Pacific, hopefully what is Aging Asia predicted that Indonesia's silver economy valued around 75 billions will come true by 2025. And also Pak Ciputra, thank you for your insights, and we are looking forward for further discussions about how actually we as a government can support the private entities so then the industries can booming. So the private sector participations in building all the people-friendly housing is quite important, I think, not only for, say, like the middle, upper and middle income, but as we already discussed today, we also have to consider about the lower and middle income country, lower and middle income populations segment. For our next steps, this is our last webinar, and I think we have quite a lot of discussions for these past 2 months, and we think that we really need to have like a quite concrete policy implementations. As the first step, the governments will concentrate to improve the availability of quality of older people services for both social and also health sectors, and also for the segment for the healthy and also active older people, as well as for those who needs for the long-term care. And I guess we need to do this as soon as possible, because I think starting from 2019, we are already in aging society, and Indonesia have to be ready for the next 5 years for more advanced aging populations. And then the second step, we will carry out simultaneously, is mainstreaming the older people's issues. This will include fulfilling the older people's rights and also creating an inclusive environment for older persons. And the last one is supporting the expansion of silver or aging economy that will develop more inclusive environment for older people. Hopefully, we can start to identify potential sectors, incentivize also the private sectors, and initiate enabling factors for the silver economy. And these steps will surely improve the other people's welfare, no matter which economic segment they are in. So this is our final webinar. Thank you again for all the distinguished speakers and also for the participants that have already quite patient to follow the whole webinar series and also give a lot of inputs to us. Thank you again. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Pak Maliki, for the closing remarks. Now we are at the end of the agenda. Hopefully this webinar has delivered the beneficial information to all of us, and we can continue the collaboration among stakeholders and also put into action what we have discussed today. May I remind you, you can find today's presentation materials by opening the link shown on the screen. And before you leave the room, it would be great if you could fill our survey, and the link will appear right after you leave the webinar room. Once again, we would like to thank all participants for your attendance and active engagement. We hope to see you again at the next opportunity. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your attention. See you next time and have a good day.
Thank you all.
Terima kasih Pak Ciputra. Thank you David Blaine.
Terima kasih.
Thank you.
Pak Yoshido, and also Bu Silwin.
Terima kasih Pak.
Terima kasih.
Dari Bappenas ya. Terima kasih.
Have a good evening.
Ya. Thank you David Lin. Terima kasih Pak Nararya, Silvin, Pak Leo, terima kasih.